Well, hello again, YouTube land. Uh, Here we are, the day after the what some call epic 2012 election. Here are my follow-up thoughts to yesterday's posting. My birthday, basically what I've already said. Sam and I grabbed a small bite to eat and took advantage of a local birthday deal at an ice cream place. Somewhat later in the evening because he decided to vote after work, which meant he had to stand in a much longer line than he expected to because I told him it would be a longer line and he didn't believe me. As for the election, in my opinion, many good things happened last night. A lot of people who showed themselves to be against women and against equality and against scientifically proven medical evidence were justifiably told to go fuck themselves. Pardon my language, but the truth is the truth. Now here's the thing. I say the truth is the truth, and it is. And I think that's part of why these people were either never let in office or were subsequently kicked out of office and lost their races. Because they spoke their truth, which in politics is dangerous at best. Honesty is a huge hazard to a political career because politicians aim to make as many people happy as necessary to put them in the position they want to be in. They don't do it to express genuine concern, not anymore. It might have been that way the first 100 years or so of this country, probably less. But that's not how it is now, and it's not how it's been for a very long time, which is why so many people who speak from a closer to honest platform perspective don't make it into office. So these people spoke their truths, and the majority of the country went, wow, you're a tool. So I am glad that our country is still capable of recognizing that. In several states, I believe Washington, Maryland, and Maine, marriage equality passed, meaning everyone and anyone who wants to get married can get married, which is a very, very good thing for any number of reasons. I mean, to start off with, no one has the right to tell anyone else you can't marry the person you love. Period, full stop. There are no qualifiers or quantifiers to that. There are no circumstantial requirements that have to be met. If you love someone and you marry them, and then you're put in a position of authority and you turn around and tell someone else who's in love you can't marry them, no. Just no. It's arrogant, it's rude, it's hypocritical, it's disgusting, it's unequal, the list goes on and on. As far as the presidential race, Mr. Obama has done it again. He has kept hold of the White House, which I have to say I'm very happy about. And my dad said this to me in 2008. He said, well, congratulations. We've had a historic election in the same time frame as your birthday, and this one hopefully will be for the betterment of everyone. I think the country gave you a birthday present. And difficult as it's been for the entire landscape of the nation the last 4 years, overall I agree with my dad. And I do somewhat agree with the logic that if we spent 8 years being victimized by the Republican Party, having an election, in my opinion, completely stolen in 2004, then we deserve equal time. The Democratic Party deserves equal time to try and fix what no one can deny Republicans spent 8 years utterly screwing up. So I'm glad he'll have the opportunity to do that now as a second-term president. I'm also glad about Maine, the state I grew up in, passing marriage equality, and hopefully no idiots referendum the hell out of it until it gets revoked again, you know? Leave well enough alone. Let everyone be happy. The other thing that I noticed this morning is that there are some members of my extended family who have posted the age-old lament. Their presidential candidate didn't win. They want to move to Canada. Who's with them? And I'm not going to deny that I've made similar comments about if Obama didn't win. And I'm not going to suggest there isn't validity to the suggestion that you should have the freedom to leave if you really and truly hate the way things are handled here, governmentally speaking. But I'm talking about extended family members, some of whom are old enough to vote, some of whom who aren't. And the ones who aren't are the ones I really feel bad for. Because they're allowed to consider themselves Republican. They're allowed to actually become active Republicans. That's not my issue. You're allowed to be whatever party you want to be. But my issue is if you think that Mitt Romney is the better choice of the two we ended up with, and that he is a good representation of what a Republican is and should be, especially when you're not even old enough to have lived sufficient life to know how difficult living life is. That worries me. That scares me. And honestly, I find it somewhat depressing. Because that's not how the political landscape of this country has always been. That's not the way Republicans used to behave. The modern incarnation of the GOP is epic light years away from what it originally was. Now, that doesn't mean I necessarily agree with all Republican platforms, or would have if times were different. That's not my point. But there was a time frame in this history when everyone's basic concerns had to do with stability. And everyone's basic concerns had to do with providing for the people, who put you in office. And being put in office as an effort to be in a position to genuinely help. And that's not what it is anymore. And it hasn't been for a long time. Politics has become the most shady deal conceivable. And I'm not even going to quantify or qualify between lawyers and bankers and politicians, because I've met good lawyers. I've met good bankers. I've met good medical professionals who skew that stereotype of slanted bias. But I've never met a politician who did. And the only one I've ever read about is Senator Al Franken. He's the only one I've ever sufficiently read up on that, after sufficiently reading up on them, because there have been several politicians I've done this for, after sufficiently reading up on Al Franken, he's the only one where I look at his overall actions and standpoint as a politician and say, you know what? He's honestly trying to help. He's honestly trying to understand. He's honestly trying to change things so that everyone does better Because he works within the structure, as far as I can tell, of the understanding that you can't please everyone all the time. You can't. But the more people you can make better off at once, the easier it becomes for everyone to help the people who still need help. I don't know. So, I am happy that strides for equality have been made. I am happy that we have kept a person in office who stands the best chance of making good strides to help everyone, even the people who don't want or necessarily deserve his help. But the other side of that coin is I'm really sad for the people who think, especially the younger people, who think we'd have been better off with someone like Mitt Romney, who couldn't stop falling over himself with preening and religious posturing and puffing up his own balloon with the hot air that came out of every orifice. His his dystopian views on equality. I mean, it doesn't make me speechless, but it does make it really difficult for me to phrase exactly how traumatic I think things would have become for so many people if he'd been elected. And I'm trying not to focus on that. I'm trying not to harp on that because he wasn't. But, I don't know, I'm a what-ifer. But you take the good, you take the bad, you take your lumps, and you move on. That's all you can do. So, put this in the obvious win column and move on to the next battle. Here's hoping the next 4 years I don't even know how to phrase that. The next 4 years are better, are happier, are more stable, are all of the above. I don't know.